I'm Mac. I don't really know how to feel about this whole audio only thing. We're trying it out. Bear with me as I make my way through this audio only space of podcasting. Oh, is there a lot to discuss? But first and foremost, thank you for the best first season that possibly could have been. But I'm back and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in this space. I'm happy to share another season with you guys. I'm hoping this season brings a lot more depth to who I am, not only as a woman, but just as a creator. And it's a solo episode, so you're going to hear nothing but me yap along as I talk about who I am now versus a year ago. This episode is dedicated to 2024 and what that looked like for me and how last year changed my life forever. Let's get into it. So, it's kind of crazy sitting here recording this because I'm literally laying my ass in bed, have a good mahogany teakwood candle running, I have a good robe on, I look a holy mess, and I'm so okay with that. And it's so funny because a year ago, almost to the day, I was recording this episode in a very nice studio with a production team, with a significant other, with an entirely different life in an entirely different city. And if I saw myself laying in bed recording this right now, I would be sick. And you're probably like, I mean, I guess I understand why. When you're trying to push content in social media, I think a lot of people have a vision that it needs to look a certain way. And when you don't necessarily meet up to those expectations, you might feel underwhelmed as if you're not doing enough. And that's kind of where I've been at the past 6 months. Is how do I go about reliving last year, telling the people that do enjoy listening to this about last year and why I am not only doing audio only, but also why my podcast isn't the same podcast as it was 6 months ago. I do want to just kind of talk about the transition first and foremost, meaning what it's going to look like versus last year, because if you listened or watched, I sat down with people, I got to know guests that were doing absolutely incredible things with their life, and I got to put them in an outfit, and I loved it. I don't regret it. It was one of the greatest years of my life, but unfortunately behind closed doors, it was honestly also one of the worst. And I've realized since my last episode came out, I can't do the podcast I did last year in the way that I did it, but I also can't live the year that I lived last year in the way that I lived it. And I think that's a lot what this episode's conversation about is, not only change. Like I said, today's episode is surrounded and completely around the topic of change, but also understanding that change is okay and change is truly the only constant. And it's okay to take a step back and look at your life, even though you might not be in the place you expect or want to be, and realize that things happen for a reason and there's always truly a higher purpose. And as long as you're constantly changing and evolving, you're working towards something, even though you might not know what that is. And I think looking back at last year, I didn't know what that was. And I'm happy to be in the place I am today. So without further ado, as I've said probably 4 times already, let's do my 2024 recap around the topic of change. So when I started Save the Best for Last, I had a career that I really worked 21 years to achieve. And it's crazy because never in a million years did I think I wouldn't be doing that. And I'm not doing that. I'm no longer in that field, in that career. I share that because a huge portion of my podcast was fashion based and materialistic based and things that are something that are a passion to me, but I realized can't be the center of my universe in order for me to emotionally and mentally be well. And a lot of you are probably like, huh? Girl, you love fashion, you love designer, you love spending money, we can go on and on and on. And I do, 1000%. I do love all those things. But if those are my focus, what is my purpose? I think I got so lost in the fact that I was living a life that I had so deeply dreamed about and begged and pleaded and prayed and worked my ass off for, that once I had it, I was never content with it because I wasn't doing anything that was fulfilling. And I'm not saying working in the fashion industry, working in high fashion specifically, luxury, et cetera, that's not fulfilling. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's a bad job. It provided me with a lifestyle that I'll be transparent, I'm not currently living. I'm not currently living the same style I once was. And financially, it definitely took a toll on me. But I'm slowly but surely realizing that if I'm only living for a dollar amount, and the other caveat of that job was what the public eye saw of me, then what am I living for? And I think that's something you should ask yourself. Not saying that you necessarily work that job. I don't think there's many people that I know or that necessarily listen to this that work in that specific industry, but look at what you're doing in life. Your career, your friends, your spirituality, your health. And would you say overall it's fulfilling you? It might be temporarily filling you. It might be something that looks good on the internet. It might be all you've ever known. But long term, are you going to be able to leave that knowing that you truly made a difference and also grew? And if you can't easily answer that question with yes, meaning within a second answering it yes, I would really rethink your life and what you're doing. And I don't say that just to say that. I say that because the past, I don't want to include under 18. So I'll be 22 when this episode comes out. So for the past 4 years of my life, my entire life was around the concept of what I thought success looked like, which was 100% driven by how much money I make and what people think of me. And I don't think I'm very different than the next man or woman standing next to me. I think a lot of people are driven by those two factors, and I'm not saying that money doesn't matter. Trust and believe, as I currently am figuring out where my next steps are going to take me, a good amount of money would be nice. However, doing that job, I made a lot of money and I was miserable. Obviously, I wouldn't tell people that. And I'm not bashing that job. I'm not bashing anyone that does anything like that. I'm not bashing any career, period. If what you're doing is making you happy and fulfilling you, then you're doing it right. The problem is, so many of us aren't doing that. And we're either chasing a dollar or a lifestyle or a certain friend, relationship, mindset, what people think of us, that whole idea. And you're running around in a circle because you're never going to accomplish any sort of peace or prosperity within your life if that's your end goal. And so I think a lot of the mental health wise things that I faced last year, and I would say from the end of 2022 until the end of 2024, so almost 2 years prior to even coming out with this podcast, where what I think mattered didn't matter at all. And so I'm doing everything in my power not to cry during this. Because since I last spoke with a camera in my face interviewing people, I've had to entirely rewire my life and the way that I think in order to find peace. And it's fucking hard. And so, if you've ever been in a place where you're having to completely change your mindset, your energy, your aura, and the things that you seek fulfilling, I want you to know you're not alone in the fact that it's fucking hard. Okay? As I sit here and tears are streaming down my face, I haven't even gotten into half the battle. And it's just, I want you to understand that life is truly a complex. And it's okay to not know what the hell's going on. And it's okay to change paths, to change trajectories, to change journeys, to change friend groups, to change is okay. Say it, it's okay. And so I wanted to start with work because that's truly what I started last year's season with. I don't think that's what determines you and determines your worth and your value. Because being a doctor and even that career is very rewarding. Being a teacher, that is very rewarding. Being in fashion, being in sports, being in media, being in whatever that looks like for you, you're so much bigger than that. That's a part of you. I'm not taking that away from you. But it can't define you or what did you accomplish while living. So take that with you for what it's worth. But that's kind of a recap on that specific topic in regards to 2024. The next thing that I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, I had a boyfriend, okay? And that's not a hidden thing. I assume if you listen to this, you probably have seen my social media. And if you've seen my social media, then you know what the hell I'm referring to. And I kind of contemplated talking about this, and this might not even make the episode, so we'll see where it goes. But I think it's important because, again, it changed me drastically as a person, as all relationships do. And I don't talk about this to degrade the person, to slander the person, because quite honestly, I don't have many bad things to say about them, which is good. Kudos to you. But I more so want to speak to women, probably specifically, but the men that are listening right now, I think you can probably take something away from this as well. When you are in a relationship, I'm, relatively young, 22 on this very day. So if you want to sing happy birthday, go crazy. I appreciate you. I will be on the beach when this episode drops, so trust and believe I'm living my best life. Thank you very much. I'm in a place right now where I'm so not relationship driven, don't want one anytime soon. Are there people in my life that I care about? Do I think there's wonderful men in this world? Yes. Do I think that there will be someone out there for me? Yes. However, I think going through relationships and meeting different people truly changes your perspectives for the best and the worst. And I know last season I talked a little bit about relationships. However, this year I will definitely have an episode, maybe two, dedicated to the topic of relationships. Because anyone that knows me personally knows that's a very interesting topic of conversation for me because of the relationships I've been in. The thing about the one last year that was, I don't want to say different, but kind of different was one, it was the healthiest one I've ever been in. I'm not saying it was for me because it really wasn't, and I think I knew that long before it ended. However, I did learn things from that individual that I realized I need in a partner that no one had ever brought. And when I think about what those are, I think about a couple different things. And I think everyone, even though everyone's different and the way that they receive and give love is different, I think across the board there's a couple of things that are non-negotiables. One, first and foremost, that in the relationship previous to this, I didn't unfortunately have. This is going to be really embarrassing, but is full-fledged commitment. And you're probably like, "What the fuck? Are you like a swinger?" No. I just have had, unfortunately, relationships where they felt like they could pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. And when I say do what they want, I want everyone, that I'm around to feel like they can do things that they want to do. But when you're in a relationship, in my eyes, there's commitment involved. And he very much so was committed to me, and I appreciate that. In addition, he, I think, overall cared about my wants and needs, and in regards to this podcast was super supportive, and for that I will forever appreciate what he did to bring this to light and help me push this full-fledged. However, with that being said, I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest issues was he was very much so self-motivated and had a very big and successful career himself. And that was always going to be number one. And that's where I'm at. Is the problem is I very much so, when it comes to relationships, think that I am attracted to success, and that truly does matter to me, that someone has their life on track, is successful, is a hard worker, always wants more, wants to be evolving, wants change, wants growth. However, a lot of people like that are very much so self-obsessed. And I can even look at my life in the past and see that maybe I have some traits like that. And it, makes me reflect. And that's kind of why I'm here where I am now, in a place of self-reflection and change and gratitude and growth, because I will never be able to find happiness, find peace, and specifically find a partner if everything that motivates me is self, right? And I expect the same for anyone. If your focus and your priority is always you and your growth and your success, I'm not saying you shouldn't. You should. But you should also, especially if you're in a relationship, care almost as much about the success, well-being, growth of the other person, and not suck that out of them. When you're in a relationship, materialistic things, anything self-obsession wise, and anything surrounding the concept of I am me and they are they is probably a red flag. And there were other factors included that I don't feel is my place to share, especially on the internet, for the sake of them and for the sake of me. But overall, those were some themes that I'm like, ugh, for the both of us. I can't sit here and think about my future for myself when I'm committed to this person. You are now a pair. And when you look at your relationship, I share this for you to do a self-reflection. Do you see yourself as individuals, or do you see yourself as one? And that's what I'm going to leave that topic on, because I will have full-fledged episodes, dedicated to relationships, and this is not going to be that. But I think it's important to reflect on not only yourself, but your relationship and the future of it. Because I think long before the relationship ended, I knew there wasn't longevity, and it's really fucked up that I stayed knowing that. So again, the question remains, do you view yourself as you and them, or do you view yourself as you together? Again, reflection over my last year of life and how I will take that experience and put it into my future. Whew! I need to breathe. This is just, damn, a lot. I don't know how these people just be podcasting by daily, weekly, etc. Like, that's another thing I plan on doing this year, is maybe making some more episodes rather than 12, because it was last day of every month and it got cut short because my life kind of went off the deep end. But damn, this is some heavy shit. So remember to breathe, okay? Moving on, let's talk about health. An unfortunate side effect of that relationship was I did not work out, I did not eat well, I did not speak well, which we'll get into, and I did not overall feel well. And you're probably thinking health physical. Kind of, but not really. Not working out, I strongly disagree with, and we'll get into that here momentarily. Not eating well, strongly disagree with, but again, we'll get into that. But the problem is those two speak more than you think, right? Those two speak more than you think. Mac, what? Girl, what? What are you talking about? Well, when I don't work out and when I eat like shit, my mind doesn't feel well. I mean, obviously I look like hell too, but my mind doesn't feel well. And why is that? Because naturally, when you go to the gym, you produce all these endorphins. There's a lot of science behind it. I'm not a doctor and I'm not going to pretend to be right now, but you feel better spiritually, physically, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, there was kind of an issue within the relationship in regards to working out. Again, I'm not going to really get into that. What I will share with you is if you're in a relationship and you don't feel inclined to do things that make you better, get the fuck out. Okay? And I mean that in the best way possible because sometimes your partner might have a different idea of what is good for them versus you. Okay? That's life. But at the end of the day, you know better than anyone, better than them, better than your mom, better than your sister, your cousin, your dad, your friend, etc., etc. You know yourself better. Please don't forget that. And so when you feel something in your core, in your chest, in your spirit that is differing than those around you, it's not lying. Even though I've always been a smaller built human, last year I was definitely my biggest that I've ever been because I didn't really work out. And now looking back at it, I'm like, you wonder why you were so depressed. Girl, the most walking you did was from your apartment to your car. Like, you thought you were going to feel great? You thought every day was going to just sunshine and stars and rainbows were just going to shoot all over the place and it was going to be like, baby, you're a sorry. But like, no, that was not ever going to be the reality of your life when you didn't do anything to feel better. And so I say all that because at the end of last year, when all these things kind of transpired, the first thing I ran to, literally, was working out. Because that's always been the only thing I know when life gets rough. I grew up a very competitive national level playing soccer player. I traveled all over the world, very grateful, very blessed, but that instilled in me this ability to have drive in physical activity. And I'm very fortunate to say that because not everyone has that. Not everyone grew up playing sports. Not everyone grew up with the parents that I had that pushed me in those sports. And I realized that this ability I have, not everyone was given that. And so another thing I do really want to push on this podcast, especially this season, is physical well-being. It's major. And no one will tell me differently. I understand everyone's abilities are different and everyone's built differently, and that's 100% okay. Trust me, I look at girls and I'm like, God damn, can I be you? God damn, can I look at like that? Can I feel like that? Can I, etc., etc. And you got to find peace in who you are, and you're just not them. And they're just not you. Like, I can also say roles are reversed. I know people look at me and probably have the same thoughts, and I hate that for them because, again, I am them and I feel them, and it's okay. As long as you're working on you and growing as a you're doing everything you were designed to be. Another topic to bring up is a very big push for this season and who I am, and I want everyone to be very clear on, is my body is truly a temple, and I work out every day of the week. I eat very well every day of the week, but it hasn't always been like this. Like I said, last year, I would maybe go to yoga one day a week. Maybe. And huge shout out to yoga, specifically Harbor Yoga in Columbus. I want to give them their wins, their rainbows, their stars, their unicorns. An incredible place to not only indulge in physical activity, but spiritually too, which is going to kind of lead me into the next topic of conversation, which is spirituality. But while being in Columbus, that place truly did spiritually, emotionally, and physically guide me in a way that nothing really else has. So I would really, if you live in Columbus, check them out. But just in general, no matter where you live, I just want to put in there that I was in 8 countries globally last year, which was a huge accomplishment for me. That regardless where you live, yoga, specifically for me, hot yoga, is a huge, huge, huge self-care treatment that I would definitely recommend you try. And if the heat isn't for you, I understand it is damn hot, but give it a try. If you don't like the heat, there's heatless options. Please just get out and use your body as a temple and realize that her worth is so much greater than you would ever know. And again, I will have a dedicated episode all around the topic of fitness and bettering your health. And I hope to have maybe some ladies from Harbor or a trainer of mine or any gym fanatics that I am friends with hop on here to talk about that with me, because It's truly such a blessing that we all have to be able to use these bodies to their greatest capabilities. But on to the next topic that I just mentioned, spirituality. Some of you listening to this might be laughing at this point because a lot of people that know me or used to know me or know anything about me know spirituality has always been a complex. Probably the largest complex that I truly have in life. I'll give it top 3. I grew up Catholic. Catholicism is not how I practice whatsoever, and I don't think I ever will again. If you're Catholic, kudos to you. I love that for you. It's spirituality. And for that, I'm happy you're practicing your ability to practice spirituality, right? I have listeners of every single sector of spirituality that you can think of. And I am blessed to have that and to know people of all of those different walks of life because I don't really align with anything specifically, and organized religion is a complex to me. Which you're probably like, what are you trying to get at? You're referring to spirituality, you're talking about God, you're talking about what type of God, what type of religion, so on and so forth. Because of what I went through as a child, which again, there will be a spirituality episode, so I'm not gonna get too into it, but as an overview, like I said, I was Catholic. That was a really weird situation. Ended up not being Catholic. Ended up not being religious, really. I never want that to be assumed as atheist, though. However, I want that to be very clear. Never been atheist. When I say religious, I mean organized religion, okay? If you don't understand that, do some research, but organized religion and spirituality, two different things. So, following the downfall of Catholicism within my life, I just wasn't religious because it was a weird situation, and yeah. Following that, then my family kind of got into non-denominational churches, so we were kind of all over the mark on non-denominational churches, which is just basically Christianity. It's nothing too specified, which I'd say overall is the closest alignment to me at this place in my life. But I still, organized religion is a very bizarre thing to me. Again, not if that's something you do, not knocking it. If it works for you, that's all I care about. To me, anything that's, I hate the word cult, and I'm not going to use that because one, I think it's offensive, and two, I don't think it's really necessarily true, but when things get kind of follow the leader like, we'll use that. I think spirituality should be something you find on your own. I don't think it should be forced upon you. I don't think it should be something that it's because you're hanging out with a group of people, you should be like them. I think that's not the right way of going about it. Again, take me with a grain of salt. However, my podcast, my opinion. Thank you. So like I was saying, spirituality is a very individualized journey. And I think it should be like that. I think it should stay like that. Don't think it should change. And if you do it a different way, I would maybe reevaluate. My opinion though. And for that, I think so many people, as I became a young adult, were like forcing different, not forcing, but kind of forcing different viewpoints, different religion, different religious groups upon me. And it made me push spirituality away further and further and further. But then, again, it's the 2024 reflection. I look back at 2024 and I was probably the farthest away from spirituality to the point where when people were pushing spirituality on social media, which is still kind of a sensitive topic for me. Not that you shouldn't. You post your God, you post how you believe. I love that for you. That shows you're a believer, and I'm not knocking that. It's just more so to me that I will talk about it. So I'm kind of jumping the fence here, but I don't want me to influence others when that's a decision you should truly make on your own. Last year, I saw a lot of people post things. I'm around a lot of religious people, so on and so forth. But again, I was very, very far from the word spirituality. I've always believed in God, believed in higher power, but never really gotten into it, never prayed, never any of that because it just wasn't important to me, which is crazy to say right now because it's the most important thing in my life as of today. But I think that's why it's also important to surround yourself by the right people. And you're probably like, now I'm confused because you said it's bad to force that upon people and you shouldn't do what everyone around you is doing because that's kind of follower-ish. Yes, true. However, let me give an example. If I'm around someone that is, I go to church every Sunday, I go to Bible study 2 days a week, I do this, that, and the third, and if you don't do this, you're bad, you're wrong. That's what I'm talking about. It's kind of weird, right? Because I think as long as morally you're a good person, we can vibe. I don't care about how you practice spirituality, if you practice spirituality, so on and so forth. However, if I'm around someone that's like, hey, I see you're not doing well. Are you okay with me praying for you? Because God has done things in my life that He can also do for you. And I just want to give it a shot. And they ask me like that to where I can even say no if I want to. That's a different conversation. And end of last year, like I said, but the entire year, but end of last year when everything came crashing, I let go of everything. I left my job. I left the relationship. This is going to sound crazy, but I left just about every friend I had, moved away, had nothing. I was truly at ground zero. Honestly, and it still kind of feels like it, ground negative. But you're never at ground negative because spiritually, you're never alone. And that's what's getting me through. And that's what can get you through, or anyone through, is that spirituality can truly guide you into a realm and an ability that you didn't even know you had that's always been there. And I don't want to be a preacher. That's not my job in life. I have one of those for a reason. I just know I'm not the only person on this earth that's at ground zero and in a place where they're like, what the hell am I doing? What's going on? I hate my life. I have nothing going on. I'm not where I want to be, so on and so forth. And that's okay. That's okay. That's 100% okay. And I don't want you to feel like it's not. And again, I don't want to be the person that pushes anything on anyone. But just know if you're in a place where you have no one, that's never the case because spiritually you always have God. Here will be how I leave the spirituality topic of conversation on this episode. No matter how you practice, no matter if you're Christian, any form of Christianity, Catholic, Baptist, non-denominational, etc. If you're Jewish, if you're Buddhist, if you're Muslim, if you're something that I'm not even addressing right now because there are so many different forms of spirituality out there that I probably don't even know about. You at the end of the day are not alone. And my biggest message to anyone, especially if you're in a phase like I am where you're lost, you're sad, you're anxious, and you're in the realm of unknown. You need to let go and you need to let God. And I know you've seen that. I know you've read it. I know someone's probably told that to you, but it's really the truth. Because everything I have going on right now is so out of my hands. It is. I can do research. I can keep getting different education. I can make new friends. But at the end of the day, what's meant to be in my life will be because of God, not because of me. And what is meant to be will be, and what's not won't. So again, I want to end the spirituality chapter of this episode on the statement that I want to say one more time is let go and let God. Because that's really all you can do when you're in a phase like that, or in any phase, even if you're at a high. Let go. Just let go. 2024. It was really, really interesting. It was interesting. And there was a lot of growth and a lot of change. And for that, I'm very grateful. And I think recently, and what I kind of want to end the episode with, is I have had some really crazy encounters that have opened my eyes. Recently, I reconnected with someone that when I was with them, it was a very big spiritual growth moment for me. Because me a year ago, if I was with this person, which is why I even bring this experience up, it would have been terrible. I would very much have rejected the information they were trying to give me. Again, I bring up this interaction because never push away people or things that are there to help you grow. A couple people I would say in my life have really challenged me to face things that are holding me back from being better. And that's my whole point of this, is there will be people in your life that may push you harder than you've ever been pushed, or have conversation with you that's very uncomfortable and make you sad and bring up things that might upset you or might remind you of your past self that you might not be the proudest of, or might not be who you are today. But until you've worked through that and realized that that person has made you who you are today, you will not grow. Let me give you an analogy. A flower, right? I love a good rose. So let's think of a flower growing from the ground. If a flower is growing, it's in someone's yard, let's just say, for situational purposes. And kids happen to play in this yard. And the kids are playing kickball. And the ball gets kicked and it flies right over the flower. The flower's now been bent in half. The flower's not looking too good. That little crease in the flower, it's real creasy. It's real creasy. And it's not looking like the flower's going to make it. Unless that crease is healed. Right? You're like, girl, what the hell? Like, what are we going to wrap a bandage around the crease? Well, I don't know, maybe. Just hear me out, okay? Any plant is not going to grow unless it is fed, aka water, rain from the sky, proper soil, and proper environment. So being in a kickball field where it's continuously getting hit and hit and hit and hit and it's never healing, it's never going to grow. You might as well pull that flower right out of the ground. It's not going anywhere. Because it's not, and it's, now again, situational, trying to get my point across. Bear with me, please. Thank you. What if that flower was in grandma's garden? And ooh, you are not allowed to play in grandma's garden. Only allowed to play in the neighbor's yard, right? So if that flower is growing in grandma's garden that has a little fence around it and it's super cute, and grandma goes out there and takes care of it every day, then the flower is bound to grow because obviously grandma gives it good soil. Obviously, we're in Ohio. It's going to rain. Ever been here? If you're not putting yourself in grandma's garden, you're not going to grow. Which, again, because this whole episode is about 2024 rewind and growth, environment is huge. Environment is huge. And that's why I'm very blessed for these handful of people that have come in my life, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally helped me grow. Because if you're around the wrong people, and if you're not healing from the things of the past, aka the kickball, the bend in the rose, your garden's never going to grow. So if you want a botanical, sick, flourishing garden that has butterflies flying everywhere and it grows all over the world, then make sure to put it in the right environment. Because throwing that garden in the North Pole is not going to grow. Trust me, it's not going to grow. It's not going to go anywhere. And you're never going to find peace. However, put that garden in Georgia. Maybe Florida can get really hot. So I think Georgia, South Carolina, good place. In grandma's yard where there's a fence and no kids can get there, then your garden's going to be beautiful. We can put all sorts of flowers in there. And so remember, your environment and the people in that environment are crucial. Crucial. So if you're in the wrong relationship, you're not treating your body like a temple, you're not eating well, you're not in a job that is fulfilling to you, your garden is never going to grow. And again, take me, everything I say, for what you will. But for my 22 years on earth, my garden isn't exactly where I want it to be, but I know it's getting there. And I know that every day I am able to grow my garden. And that's what I'll continue to do. So thanks for coming back for season 2, because we're just getting started, truly. And every episode will touch on different topics that touch me and touch my life and touch those around me. So if you enjoyed today's episode, remember to either subscribe to one of my platforms, which includes YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, should be all of them at this point, and follow my Instagram. I was going to make a TikTok, but stay tuned for that because I'm not quite sure what's going on there. So we'll have to go through this together. But I'm really looking forward to this new chapter of my life and this new season of my podcast because it's going to be a lot more about me and what I think about life and what I want in my garden and what I hope you want in yours as well. So, thank you so much again for an incredible season 1. And I look forward to making even more incredible moments in season 2 and helping us grow our gardens together. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of season 2 and be ready to save the best for last for all of 2025. Bye.